It's okay, it takes time. I know everything will be alright.
Welcome back to Strong. I'm so excited to bring another incredible guest. Today we are zooming around the world and we're meeting with Akin, who is based in Nigeria. Welcome, Akin. I'm so excited to have you with me today.
I'm excited as well, Maria. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's such an honor to be interviewing you tonight for a multiple of different reasons. One, your incredible book, two, the work that you do with parents. But for me, I'm most excited to meet the man behind all of these incredible initiatives that you've taken on. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to go down memory lane through different moments of your life and help our audience begin to understand that role models such as yourself don't just wake up this way. There's a journey, there's resilience that is gained along your journey. So let's take you back to the younger years when you were a teenager. If I were to look at the photos of your younger years, what would those photographs tell me about your story?
Those photographs are unpalatable photographs. They are not the kind of memory I really want to bring forward into what is happening to me now. But because I've sought a perfect way for healing, so I am already healed of my past childhood experience, those significant emotional experiences I had while growing up, especially as a teenager, they were not palatable at all. They were not something I wish even the children of my enemies, could experience. Because, okay, this is how it happened. At age 14, okay, I came from a polygamous family. Stark polygamous family. My dad had 7 wives. So at the point when I was 12, thereabout, 12, yes, 13, when I was 13, thereabout. My mother left because of the, all manners of marital challenges she was facing, in the home. Initially, I went with her, but fortunately for me, it was during a summer. It was during summer season. So I just spent about 2, 3 months with her. Then later, I came back to meet my dad. So after that, I was at the mercy, of my dad and the stepmoms that were around then. So I'm not really holding anything against them, really, but I went through all manners of serial abuses, all manners of emotional torture. I didn't have enough time to face my studies because I would walk, even up to the point that while I woke up in the morning to go to school, I would still walk until the time was up. I was always going to school late. Even when I came back again, I would walk all manners. So when I was now going to write my senior school certificate, West African Examination Council, when I was going to write that, I wrote that I went into the exam hall totally, my mind was totally barren. My mind was totally barren because I didn't know anything. I didn't read so much. I was going through emotional torture. Nobody was there, to rescue me. Nobody was there to hear my view. Instead, anytime, I didn't have a voice of my own while I was in the house. And that thing was not really about me alone because my dad actually raised us with so much fear. My dad was so fearful. It's not against me alone. Even as the same way, the same thing happened to other children. When we saw my dad come from work like this, he was a police officer. He was a police officer. So when we saw him come like this, we would run away. We would scatter. We would run. If we're watching TV and we heard the footstep of my dad, every one of us, we would run into the rooms of our mothers, right? He thought, he wanted to raise us with an iron hand. They need to fear you when they hear your voice. They need to tremble. So all manners, all those things that we were raised with, most of this method did none of this method actually worked, because it didn't work. But to me, to my dad then, I was so obedient. I was so obedient because anything he wanted me to do, I will make sure that I do it 10 times just to please him, because I didn't want him to beat me. I didn't want him to beat me. If they heard any one of my siblings crying back in the days in our compound, in our area where I grew up, in your state, in Nigeria, people will always know that it could never be Akin. It could never be me, because they knew that I was obedient. The obedience that was fostered in me was alien to my body. The obedience that was fostered in me was a subdued mind, came up as a sort of mind submission, mind subdue. My mind was subdued. I was unduly, made to obey, because I didn't have a voice of my own. I didn't have a voice of my own. I couldn't tell my dad or my stepmom that I needed to read. If I told them I needed to read, they would count that as being disobedient. So even if they sent me to do some things over time again, I didn't say anything, because if I had to say anything, my dad would beat me. My dad would beat me. So after that, I left when I became 18 years of age. I left him and I had to go back to my mom. So when I went back to my mom, that was when those things that had been bottled down within me it was like I had been in a prison for like 5-6 years. But here I am now. I'm now with my mom. So I became loose. Expected of someone that had been bottled, that had been kept in a prison. I became loose. Then my mom now had to bear the brunt of my stubbornness. My mom had to bear the brunt of my insolence. My mom had to bear the brunt of my indolence. A lot of things that my mom had to bear, because I knew that the moment I should have exhibited all those ones, the adolescent years that I should have exhibited them, my dad didn't allow me to exhibit any one of them. So it was when I got to my mom, my real self, my real identity now came up, right? So we waded through. My mom was a teacher then. She was still in active service. She was a teacher. She would shout. She introduced me to many other colleagues that what is wrong with this guy? And those one had to tell her that the only thing that was wrong with the guy was because where he was before, he was in the prison, but now he can have a fresh breath of life. So I waded through all those things with my my university years. Now let me now tell you what my teenage year, the effect of turbulent childhood experience I had. I didn't know that I had turbulent challenge until I got to a higher institution. That was when all those things started manifesting, meaning that I didn't have a mind of my own. Where I was supposed to talk, among my friends, I couldn't talk. Where I was supposed to ask questions in the class, I couldn't, because other friends, other students that I met in the class, they were way higher than me, in mental age. Some of them I was older than in chronological age, but in mental capacity, in mental age, those guys, both boys and girls, they were exposed than me. They were mentally fit than me, and more than me. They were educationally, alert more than me. So because some issues are taking place while I was growing up, as a teenager, I didn't have time. I didn't have a voice of my own. everything inside of me had paralyzed. And we always know it was now when I started this thing about 11 years ago, that was when I knew that the critical age of any man or any woman in life is the teenage year, from childhood, from first year to 18 years. So any child that misses those critical things that they should learn at that particular age will really suffer for it at 20 upward. And that is what I suffered for. Even when I went into marriage at age 30, when I went into marriage at age 30, those childhood experiences, significant emotional experiences that I had as a teenager, still in a way hindered my growth as a father, hindered my growth as a family man. A lot of things I didn't know what to do right. I didn't know, I didn't have identity of my own. I didn't have a sense of purpose. I didn't have a sense of commitment. Even though I was a banker then, I was working in a bank. I didn't know that as a human, you need to connect to your purpose in life. You need to know the purpose of creation. You need to obtain your certificate of creation from God. I didn't know. I just felt, I thought you just came to this world, work, have money, have fun, have children, then you grow old, then you die.
To go back to that time that you described where you felt like you were imprisoned in your home with your father and your siblings and your stepmothers. Do you feel now that you're looking back at those times that it could have been easier if your mom was there with you, or were you and your siblings almost unprotected because the other children had their mothers and you were without yours?
It wasn't going to make any difference. My mom was around because my dad had sway. My dad, whatever my dad said was the final. Even when my mom was around, she couldn't say anything. She didn't have any influence on me. So there couldn't have been any difference. It couldn't have mattered if my mom was around.
So when you went to live with your mother, how old were you, Akin?
When I went to live with my mom, I was 18.
And at 18, did you feel, I know that you said that you were of that university age and that you were reliving the years that you couldn't have when you were living at home with your father because he was raising you with an iron fist, which is how you described it. Do you feel that there was any anger to your mom that made you kind of explode these emotions on her, or would it have mattered whether she lived with you or not? Just being away from that home meant that you could feel free to be you and explore those emotions.
Exactly. The only thing that made me behave that way was because that I was off the prison and I was with my mom. Then I could be free to express my opinion with my mom. That's exactly what happened. I wasn't really angry from the fact that she left me, because I knew the reason why she left and she had to go. Three of the children, we were in support. My mom had to go for her sanity. She had to go. So it wasn't that maybe I was angry against her that she left. No, but the only thing that happened was because I was off the prison and now let me express myself. But while I was expressing myself, my mom didn't understand, didn't come to terms with the reality that this guy had been in a prison. She felt at my age, I shouldn't be behaving in certain ways, which I was behaving to her. I was telling her that, Mom, all these years I was in a prison, that if I'm with you now and you will still not allow me to talk, it doesn't make any sense to me. So please allow me to express myself. But each time I express myself, it hit my mom. My mom never liked the way I expressed myself. A lot of things that I would not do with my dad. Whatever my dad gave me as meal for like a breakfast or lunch, I would eat. But when I was with my mom couldn't just continue to ration the food for me. I wanted to be free. I wanted to eat like 4 times, 5 times a day. Do you understand? So that was exactly what happened. Not that I was angry that she left. I wasn't really angry, but my responses, or rather my reactions towards whatever she does or she did to me, didn't just get down well with me. She was a teacher and she wanted to hold me in that light. She wanted to like cane me when I did something wrong. But I would scream, no, you can't do this. If my dad caned me unjustly, why would you cane me also? So those were the challenges I had with my mom at a stage, or at the age where I was not supposed to behave that way. I had to behave those ways because when I was supposed to behave that way, I was bottled down. I was suppressed. I was oppressed. So, but when I came out of the imagery prison, now I had to behave like that to my mom.
Akin, have you ever spoken to your father and told him how you felt?
Yes, that was when I was age 36, because my dad died in 2004, and that was about two years before my marriage. I mean, after my marriage. After I got married, that was when my dad died. We spoke, we agreed. He told me that what he did wasn't really proper, that it was just because of some factors beyond him and beyond me. That was how he behaved that way, and we all settled. Really, we did settle. We did settle. He apologized, and I cried that it's okay, it's okay, and I wish he even lived longer than the time he died.
I'm digesting everything that you've told me, and I know watching this right now will be parents and young people thinking, wow, how did you stay positive? How did you wake up every day? Or was this common in your community? Was this how other families were raising their children? Or was it because your father was a police officer and that was just the way that he was raised and that's how he was raising his children?
I believe what was really trending, what the belief system most of people in Africa had then, and some of them still have it now. That's why we have this program about how people can swap their belief system, all those self-limiting belief system into a belief system, or belief systems that can actually make them progressive in life. So what was really prevalent back in the days was just, in Africa, that you have or you must raise your children with an iron fist. That was what was prevalent, because if I have to really weigh what happened then, in society, I think it was only about 20, not more than 20% of people in this part of the world, in Nigeria, not more than 20% of them gave their children free will of expression. And when they did something wrong, they discipline them. Nobody is supporting when you allow children to behave anyhow. Nobody is supporting that. When a child behaves in a manner that is not really supporting the belief system or supporting the vision or the value of the family, that child or those children must be disciplined accordingly. I do support that. But when 80% of African parents back in the days, when 80% of them believe that for children to turn out well, don't forget, some of them, even within that 80%, some of them were doing it with a genuine mind. But they didn't just know, they didn't know better. They didn't have enough tools, better tools to raise effective children. They believe that the only way, the only tool they needed or they had was just to be hard on their children, was for them to shout on the children. If the children did not do something right, they shouted on them. When the children did that thing again, that thing that wasn't right again, they beat the child with canes, with all manners of objects. They believed that that was how they were raised. That was how they were raised. And there is a need for them to raise their own children like that. So that was what was really prevalent. It wasn't because my dad was a police officer. We had many families and many friends, many family friends that their parents or their dad were never police officers, and they still raised their children with an iron fist. And people will always say that if they didn't do that, the children will not turn out well. It is a pure, it's a lie, or it's not totally true. It's a fallacy, because most children at that particular time, some of my siblings at that particular time ran away from home. They ran away from my dad. They ran away from my dad. And that's why during those periods, you see some children, they ended being bus conductors. They ended being armed robbers. They ended in all manners of vices. And before their parents could wake up to realize the havoc they've done to these children, it was late. So what kept me going on was simple. One of those things that kept me going on was even the fact that I left my dad. When I left my dad, as a matter of fact, he actually fought me for no just reason, and he threw me out of the house. He said he doesn't want to see me again. So that was where I left. When I left, then I went to stay with my mom. So when I was with my mom, I saw many of my cousins whose parents were not, whose fathers were not as hard and brutish as my dad. So I could feel the love those fathers gave my cousins. So because of that, I shared part of the love. I felt loved. I saw uncles who could see me, who could love me the way I was. I saw uncles who could call me, who could ask me questions. So I was relating with them. The relationship I did not have with my dad, I was having with my uncles, from my mom's side. So I saw the children there, and I discovered positivities, something that could really get me going on. So that kept me on throughout those stages that I was really suffering, that we call it post-traumatic growth. It was at that particular time when I got with my mom, when I was staying with my mom, the moment was just actually post-traumatic growth. So the positive or the positivities I saw with my cousins and my uncles kept me going on. So that was what kept me going on. Because why am I saying this? About few years ago, we read something in the national dailies here in Nigeria that a teenage boy committed suicide. Why did he do that? He did that because he felt unloved by his dad. His dad, everybody around, they treated him badly. And when he got to school as well, he felt that some of his students, some of the friends in school, they were calling him bastard because, they were repeating the same thing the dad used to call him while he was at home. And the guy just felt that, why was the whole world against him? He ended his life. So when I look at that thing that happened, when I read it, I shed tears. I was wailing that I can't remember whether any suicidal thought came through my mind while I was going through what this teenage boy went through. So I was now, why did he have to commit suicide? Didn't he see some people that could really talk to him around that particular time? And I came to the reality that what actually saved me was the fact that I left my dad and I saw another positive life from my cousins and from my uncles. So that was actually what saved me.
Akin.
Yes, please.
I'm listening to you and I'm just thinking, a little boy named Akin went through so much trauma and challenge, and here you are today, a man that used that pain and is doing something different to help others. It's incredible. It's inspiring. And before we talk about what you're doing right now, what would you say? I know that you said that your uncles gave you that love, those things that you were missing in the relationship you had with your father. But within you, do you feel that it was just a natural feeling for you not to give up, or was it because you knew that at some point you would be reunited with your mom and that you would be able to be free from what you called that metaphorical prison?
Exactly. What kept me going on from that metaphorical prison was that at a point in time, I was going to leave my dad and rejoin with my mom. That is exactly what happened. Immediately, I started experiencing that. I set a deadline for myself. But my mom told me, never run away from him. If you run away from him, your dad will have a reason for rejecting you. So endure everything. So I endured. But at a point in time, he sent me out of the house. So that was when I felt that this was a miracle. This was the moment I've been waiting for. Then I rejoined with my mom. That is exactly what happened.
So you were 18 when he sent you away?
Yes, I was 18.
Wow. Okay, Akin, here you are today. Tell us what you do. Tell us what your reason for being on this show is.
So I'm a parenting development strategist. I'm a family life practitioner. Then I'm a leadership instructor also. So it's all about everything that I went through as a teenager, as a youth, and as adults. We just got married, but with no sense of direction, no sense of authenticity, no sense of purpose. I wanted to know, what is it that God has created me for? I was praying that God, I needed to obtain my certificate of creation. I needed to know my identity. I needed to know my authenticity. What is it that you want me to do in this life? So in a perfect revelation, the Lord showed me that what he wanted me to do, what he has created me for, was in the space of parenting. So in the space of parenting. So I now began to ask, why the space of parenting? I wanted maybe like a business, a consultant, all those things. And during that conversation I was having with the Holy Spirit, that was not telling me, it was there that now took me back to my childhood experiences, that those things that you grew up with, those challenges, those significant emotional experiences, those unpalatable experiences you had while growing up, now I'm sending you to talk to parents, to talk to adults, to talk to teenagers, to talk to the world on how to raise their children effectively so that there will be minimal challenges in the world. Don't forget, Maria, that parenting and family is a smaller unit of the society. As a matter of fact, family is the manufacturing company of the society. Everyone you see today, every leader you see today across spheres of influence was once a child. Every president was once a child. Every governor was once a child. Every priest was once a child. Every pastor was once a child. Every monk was once a child. Every imam was once a child. Every leader, every business owner was once a child. So what were the things they raised these children for? So when you look at it now, any dysfunctional system you see in the world today was as a result, was a product of a dysfunctional homes we had back in the days. I say that again.
I'm going to stop you and I'm going to challenge you on this, if that's okay with you, because I know watching this right now will be parents that are saying, wait a minute, I raised my children really, really well. We're educated. We give them every opportunity possible. And yet my child is still struggling with mental health issues. And I would be one of those, Akin, I'll be very honest with you. It's hard to hear what you're saying, that what happens at home is the reason why it's happening in society. Can you give us a little more detail on what you mean? Because I think it's all very subjective, isn't it? And I'm wondering if that's what you mean, because I know that we can do the best we can as parents, but sometimes it's never really enough, and our children have needs that we can't be supporting them with.
Okay, let me expatiate further on that. Okay, now while I appreciate parents, I appreciate every parent for everything that they put in to raise their children perfectly, effectively, and for the children to be alive to the responsibility. And yet we still see some students who still go on a suicidal attempt. Some have ended their life. So I empathize with this parent. But from available result of the research with us, we discovered that because I have seen some teenagers like that. I don't know what is obtainable in other parts of the world, but here in Nigeria, we've seen some teenagers, right, that their parents have sent them to us. That I don't know what is happening to these children. This is the kind of thought he or she is having. And what we do, we swing into action immediately, and we run what we call like a psychometric test for them. We run a psychometric test for them. We tell them to fill in some things, to write some things. So once they wrote all those things down, we will always figure out where the problem is. We will always figure out what the problem is, because at a point in time, we may not know what our children are going through outside the world around us. The same way, I've seen many parents who are very dutiful. They are left with responsibility as parents, but still, their children still go out to be wayward. Their children, some of their children are not perfect reflection of what the parents have given those children. I know those things are happening, because that's why I know, we have about 4 or 5 environments around the child. The first environment, the child themselves. The second environment, the parents. The third environment, that is the school. Then the fourth environment, the society. So it's so difficult to really put the blame, on the parents. It's so difficult to put the blame on the parents. But I am speaking from the perspective of Nigeria society. That is the perspective I'm speaking. Why did I say the dysfunctionality that we see in Nigeria today, as a case in point, is as a result of the dysfunctionality in many homes back in the days. If it is wrong or it is not so right, how come that we've not seen a perfect example from the current leaders that we see in the world today, current leaders that we see in Africa? How come Africa is still battling with these challenges of leadership? How come? So that's why I came with that conclusion, and as a result of the research that we have gone through so far, that many of the leaders that we have today in Nigeria, many of them came out from dysfunctional homes. While many of them, when we are talking about this dysfunctional home, we don't really mean some homes where the parents are fighting themselves, where father is fighting the mother, or where the children are loggerheads with themselves. No, when there is no proper vision statement, when there is no proper value statement, which in effect is now converted to the DNA creed of that family, there is going to be dysfunctionality in that family, because right from childhood, there was no vision statement in the family. So when there was no vision statement in the family, how do you expect those children to grow up to become adults and they want to fix the leadership in the society? So that is what I mean by dysfunctionality in the home. There is no clear vision statement, no clear value statement, no clear DNA creed. The children are not taught what they should follow. They only told us, don't steal. They only told us, don't fight. But there is no scenario. There was no scenario to always express or to explain those things unto us. We grew up with so much explanation, but with little experiences from our parents. Give me more experiences as against much explanation. How do you give experiences? You give experiences in line with the value statement, in line with the vision statement, in line with the DNA code that you want to raise the children with. So that value statement, vision will form part of the DNA code for that children. When they go out of you, they live by that DNA code. So that's exactly what I mean, that it could be subjective in a way. I'm not disputing that fact, but with the available resource from the researches that we have done, we discovered that the dysfunctionality that we see in most African countries today is as a result of past dysfunctionalities that the homes experienced back in the days, like 40, 30 years ago. And until we correct that, there will always continue to be this dysfunctionality with no hope in sight. And that is why part of what we have come out to do, to tell African parents that let us build on the success our parents have given us. We can't continue like this. Let us do it better. And Maria, let me just say this. There is something I like about Indian family system. That is something I like there, because I was watching this man's program sometimes, I've forgotten his name now, and he said the rate of divorce in India is so negligible that almost 99% of Indian family or Indian marriage, they still keep themselves and they stay together. And it was because of the family creed. It was because of what they believe, the belief system that suggests that family is supreme to any other thing. So I'm still trying to study that system. I've not been able to know the kind of family system the Indian community runs, but I give it to them. That family system is most superior to what we have in Africa. And that is what we want to build on, just to make sure that.
I think we also have to be really careful with statistics, because what we also know, and I'm not dealing with the data, or I don't have the data and those details, but what I have seen is sometimes families that stay together doesn't necessarily mean that they are happy to stay together. It just means that they don't know there's another option. But let's take this back to you, Akin, and back to your story. I find the message that you're giving us right now very helpful in finding empathy for leaders who are leading in such a harsh way in Nigeria. And I think what you're describing to us is also very humbling to hear, that you had such trauma growing up, and yet you've come to a place where you've not only forgiven your father for what he did, but you've also come to understand that he didn't know any better. And actually, as a society, they didn't know any better. But I'm also hearing you say that that can't continue anymore. So it's now time for society to start finding better ways to parent their children. In looking at yourself right now, are you talking to us as a father? Have you now taken on that role as a father?
Yes, I've taken that role as a father, because I actually have a book I wrote, and the title of the book is Daddy, Where Are You? Daddy, Where Are You? Because while we were growing up, it was rang into our ears that the responsibility of a father, starts from being financially available. So that was what we were raised with. They believe that, for you to be a great husband, to be a great father to your children, a great husband to your wife, you must be financially buoyant, you must be rich, you must be wealthy. And you see many men, fathers, running helter-skelter just to make sure that their relevance as being financially stable, financially available, does not reduce. And they keep running from pillar to post at the detriment of being available for the children. So that is what that book is all about. That father, please, it's good to make money. It's good to be financially buoyant. It's good to be financially available for your children. Of course, now I crave that and I love that and I do it. But beyond that, there are many things Now, once or when our children don't see us do it, those things will never reinforce positive values in them.
So tell me
Take
what
for
it's
instance,
like to be Akin the father. You described your relationship with your father. Now you're a father. What are you doing different?
fine. Okay, thank you. What I'm doing different is simple. I am more committed to my children than how my father was never committed. So he wasn't committed, he wasn't involved. So don't let me even go there. So what I'm doing now, I'm involved with my children and I'm committed to them. Every day I speak to them. Every day we hold meeting. Every day I run them through the family vision, the family value, the DNA creed, and every week we simulate one of the family vision, one of the family value system, we simulate, then we create a scenario just for them so that it will be in their head. If it is leadership we want to talk about this week, then I simulate leadership. I craft a story around it. I craft a scenario around it, and they grow with it because my elder child now is 17. She'll be going to university this year. She'll be going to university. And those are the things that I am doing differently, just to be there for them, to be committed, to be involved, not with finances alone, but in reinforcing positive values in them.
How is that relationship with your 17-year-old daughter right now?
The relationship is so cute. The relationship is awesome. And one of the areas or one of the events that describe that awesome relationship happened about 3 years ago when she was 14 and she asked me, Dad, what is this noise about for girls to keep their virginity?
Wow, big topic at 14.
Imagine that. She asked me that, what is it? After all, I can still lose my virginity and become somebody in life. I can still lose my virginity and still maintain my Christianity. Then I lose it. I go back to God, and God forgives me, and I can still do amazingly well in life. So what is it? And I told her, I said, you are right. You can still lose your virginity and become somebody great in life. But losing your virginity is not the problem, but the attendant consequences, intended consequences and unintended consequences that will attract you losing your virginity. I said, imagine if you lose your virginity at 14 or 15 now, meaning that you have you have losing some better parts of you. So a guy that deflowered you will probably leave you and go to somebody else. So how many emotional stress do you want to battle before you are age 21 or before you get married? So when you keep your virginity, you excuse yourself from emotional trauma. That is. And when I explained that into her, she documented it, she wrote it down. And later we went on and on and on, some questions about alcohol, questions about, having boyfriend, all those things. Immediately, we finished that discussion and she summarized everything that, Daddy, the only thing I took out of this, the only thing I'm taking out of it is my emotional stability, which is very, very supreme to her. I made her to understand because I lost my own virginity at age 13 to an older cousin.
I'm just listening and thinking, what an incredible moment that your daughter felt safe to have that conversation with you. Can you remember being 13 as you described? Would you have been able to have the courage to talk to your father or even your mother about such a topic?
I wouldn't have that courage to talk to my mother, let alone talk to my dad that was not even available. Because
So,
my mom will even shut me down that, why am I asking that question? Have you started doing it? Don't ask that question again. Just keep to yourself.
so in just being able to have that conversation, I'm sure as a father, when your 14-year-old daughter asks you a question like this, before you're even responding, there has to be a moment of like, oh my goodness, are we really going to talk about this right now? Like, I think any parent would be like, I'm not ready for this conversation, but what an incredible feeling to know that your daughter felt safe to talk to you and also felt like you could be somebody that she could have that conversation with. How many children do you have today, Akin?
I have two,
Two
17 and
children.
14. 17
So
and 14.
you came from a polygamous family, as you described right at the beginning.
Yes, please.
With only having two children, what does that feel like? How is it different for you being who you are today and the large family that you had growing up?
Okay, it's so I feel okay. I feel you know I feel fulfilled as it is, and I will tell you the reason why. If you know, as I've explained now, if you really recollect about my childhood trauma, the significant emotional experiences I had, very unpalatable, and again, I don't want my children to experience that. Then you will appreciate my decision to stay with one wife and have two children. Because I haven't come this way. How did I? Because the only thing I did was just to swap the belief system. When I ran, the psychometric test for myself, I knew what happened. I used somebody to stay. When I was doing that psychometric test, somebody acted as my dad. I ran the person through everything my dad went through as a child, as a teenager. So, and I did my own. So I haven't gone through all those things. I just look at those things that this happened to my dad as a result of his own childhood experiences. Now, these two, what future do I hope for my children? What future do I hope for my immediate community? What future do I hold for humanity as a whole? Then I listed all those things. So immediately I listed all those things, I just swapped it that the only belief system I have to take was the one that gives me hope, that gives my children hope, that gives the society around me hope for the future, not the one that will take me back to 50 years ago when my dad was raised. So that was the strategy I used. And I'm maintaining that strategy up till now.
Incredible. Tell us where we can find your book, Akin.
My book is on my website.
Tell us your website. Give us all this information. I know somebody watching this is going to be very curious and want to learn more about Akin the man.
Okay, thank you. My website is www.peremarkacademy.com.
Akin, just before we say goodbye and bring this incredible conversation to an end, I know that being self-aware and socially aware is important to you. What are your tips for anybody watching this to become not only self-aware, but also socially aware?
The advice I want to give anyone watching this is for you to even be self-aware and socially aware, a lot of things that you have to do. I want to encourage everybody to please, invest in personal development.
Mm-hmm. So important, isn't it?
Exactly. Every advice I would give involves around personal development, because it is through personal development you will discover a lot of things you are not doing right as a parent, a lot of things you are not doing right as a father, you are not doing right as an educator, a lot of things you are not doing right as a mother, even a lot of things you are not doing right as a wife, you are not doing right as a husband. You get to know them through intensive personal development. Please, that is the advice I would give to everybody. Consistent personal development. And if you are working in an organization, personal development is different from staff training. As much as your organization, as your employer, invest in your personal training for you to be better on the job, on the task is giving you. Also, you need to invest in your personal development so that you will be excellent in your own personal task. So people shouldn't just mix up the training, the job training. They shouldn't mix up with personal development. So in one word, personal development will open your mind to many areas that you have never thought of in your life.
How did you come to this place of healing, Akin? How did you, I mean, the trauma you described is so harsh, and people can spend their lifetime trying to find that healing. How did you find it so quickly?
Okay, I found healing so quickly by first of all, knowing my identity of creation. So immediately I knew I was made to speak of parenting. I started going to schools, talk to parents, talk to organizations. So immediately, the first thing that happened to me that led me to personal healing was connecting to my authenticity, which is parenting. Then after that, I invested in my personal development. I am certified in emotional intelligence. So a lot of things that a lot of personal development I've gone through. Do you understand? And I run psychometric tests on myself, on my wife, on my children every day. So that
How much fun is that for your children? Like, let's be real for a minute. How many times do your children say, "Oh, Daddy, no more, we're tired"?
they say it almost every time.
Almost every
And,
time. I'm sure they love you
and
and appreciate you for
exactly.
that.
And that is why I don't make it lengthy and I create a scenario around it. I can just create something, a funny scene in the house that we just be talking. I can be shouting, I can be doing this. And when we now come to a conclusion of this, I'll just tell them that if I sat you down, that let us discuss about integrity. Let us discuss about trust. Let us discuss about love. You will not listen to me. But what I've created now is a scenario for you to know the value of love, the value of integrity, the value of leadership. You know, they are teenagers, and they are teenagers. And while they are teenagers, part of the studies I've done for them being teenagers is epic. They are epic generation. Epic generation. E stands for experiential. E stands for experiential. Anything that is not going to be experiential to them, they will not listen. Then P stands for participatory. They want to participate in everything. Then E, they want their image driven. They are connected to image. And that's why you see them 24/7 on the screen. 24/7 TikTok, all those Instagram, all those things. Then C, connected. They want to feel connected. So if you don't use those four areas for them, they will not connect. That's why I told them that anytime I want them to learn anything, I create a skit around it and they learn. Otherwise, they will not listen to me. They will say that, Daddy, we are tired. It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you so much, Akin. It's been such a pleasure talking with you today. Really, I've learned so much from you, and I'm so humbled that you've taken the time to share your life experience with us here at #Strong. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of another incredible conversation. Today we were talking with Akin, who is based in Nigeria, and he was talking to us about his life, family, growing up, and his resilience through his upbringing and his childhood. Thank you so much, Akin. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next week when we bring another incredible guest to Strong.